Another one regarding, I think, the beer example more specifically, it's saying, are you assuming glass and cans are new or recycled?
Good question. Because our database is based on the U.S. economy on average, we assume average rates of recycling for glass and aluminum automatically in our database.
Using recycled or substituting recycled could be part of a strategy, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a question about the database itself. Is this based on the EIO LCA work out of Carnegie Mellon?
Good question. There are two input-output databases for the U.S. One is the EIO-LCA database that this question is referring to, and the other is called the Comprehensive Environmental Data Archive, and it's produced by Professor Sang-Won Soo at the University of California at Santa Barbara. And we use CETA, which is the database from Professor Soo. And there are some subtle differences between the two, but essentially they're both input-output databases that allow us to view environmental impacts throughout the economy.
And another question related to that that just came in, do you use other data or do you rely exclusively on this input-output database?
Great question. We use lots of other data. We use the input-output database as this kind of initial screening tool in what we showed today, but it's very important that we use additional databases and additional researchers' findings to triangulate, understand kind of a spread of uncertainty around certain emissions for different products, and help us identify where it's worthwhile to go to suppliers and collect additional data, or where we can simply use data from other databases to refine our results and save our clients cost, time and money in that way as well.
Well, here's a pretty basic one. Have you ever done this analysis for the construction of a building?
Yes, we have. We've worked extensively with Webcor Construction, which is one of the largest construction companies on the West Coast, and we have utilized their estimates of future buildings that they're building to come up with greenhouse gas estimates for those buildings, which is exciting because it means that before they've even built the building, we can start to understand trade-offs between different kinds of windows and how those will affect use phase emissions, for example, or if there's opportunities for changing the type of concrete that's used in the building to reduce total greenhouse gas emissions. So we have lots of experience with construction, and if anybody wants to speak with us further about that, we'd be happy to.
Another question here. You mentioned other environmental impacts. Can you use mapping, such as you demonstrated here, to prioritize other environmental impacts?
We definitely can, and that's a really great use of the supply chain mapping technique. You could imagine before you start to look into the supply chain, you look at all the different types of environmental impacts that are out there, and our database has over 1,300 different environmental flows included in it, so we certainly don't want to use all of those with every client. But we can include them all in the first pass with a client, figure out what the top 5 things are that we need to be thinking about, and then look back into the supply chain for each of those top environmental hitters and figure out where we can make strategic decisions to reduce environmental impacts across all those areas.
Here's a little bit longer question. The question is, our company has recently unveiled our sustainability initiative. We don't actually have a plan, but we want one. Once we complete this process with you, will you help us determine the next steps? We are very late and very green when it comes to understanding our carbon footprint. So the basic answer to that question is yes. More importantly, we follow a process that maps pretty closely to what you saw today. We do a high-level mapping of your carbon footprint. We help you identify hotspots, iterate on what possible strategies there might be, and then we work with you to pull out more detailed data when and if it's required. Once we've done that and you begin to implement, we provide you with routine quarterly reports so that you can measure and manage your progress. So it really is, as we mentioned at the beginning, an iterative process. We've got a number of other questions, and I want to assure everybody that we'll be sending emails out if we haven't answered your questions. I also want to once again thank CRS for kindly hosting the webinar. Thank you all for attending. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to ongoing conversations with you in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.